sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to our great teacher and noble friend, Pinwat Lokusunwanse. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So, dear Dhamma friends, let us begin with the teaching, with the discourse. I choose a very famous discourse actually for today, so most of you probably heard about it, but we can't hear this discourse often enough, and maybe when I teach it to you out of a little bit different angle than you heard it last time, but also if you never heard about this discourse, it's always beautiful. Well, I don't call it a secret, but I tell you something a little private. It's actually the first discourse I ever read. And this was totally randomly, and it was not in it was not in English. It was actually in German. It was when I stayed in Thailand, in a little kuti, in a little hut, by myself during COVID time. I was kind of completely alone there and randomly found the middle-length discourses of the Buddha in German language, and I read this sutta. And when I read it, this was actually what I was looking for, not this sutta, I mean a pure teaching of the Buddha. And when I read it, I felt like this is the most wisest thing I've ever heard. I never heard something that is that wise like this. There was nothing in comparison to it. I mean, I tried to read books like Eckhart Tolle or whatever books, but I never felt like this person will be my teacher. But when I read this, I felt like it's unbelievable. It's just beautiful, even if I didn't understand everything for sure. Like, but still, I really enjoy to read this discourse. So I'm glad to share this discourse today. It's called All the Taints. It's the Sabbāsava Sutta. It's the second sutta in the middle-length discourses of the Buddha. I have the translation from the Venerable Bhante Bodhi. So it begins like usual. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anna Tabindika's park. There he addressed the bhikkhus thus, Bhikkhus. Venerable Sir, they replied, the Blessed One said this, Bhikkhus, I shall teach you a discourse on the restraint of all the taints. Listen and attend closely to what I shall say. So this discourse, like the topic already says, all the taints, and here the Buddha says, I teach you discourse about the restraint of all the taints. So the taints, there's three taints. The taint of sensual desire, the taint of, well, the usual translation is existence or being. The better translation would be the arranging of karma to bear fruit. So this means we call it here, we will call the taint of existence. But just that you know, it's about the arranging of karma to bear fruit. It's the second taint, and the third taint is the taint of ignorance. So these three taints, like, they bind us to this samsara. So that's where we get born again and again, because we have those taints. They track you to each birth accordance to your karma, to the karma you produce. They produce you, they drag you either in the sense sphere realm, in the fine material realm, or in the immaterial realm. So you will read about the taints in many, many discourses, and here the Buddha teaches us a beautiful sutta about the restraining of the taints. Bhikkhus, I say that the destruction of the taints is for one who knows and sees, not for one who does not know and see. Who knows and sees what? Wise attention and unwise attention. So the Buddha says the destruction of the taints is for one who knows and sees. This seeing here is not with our eyesight. It is with the eye of wisdom. So we have to see wisely those taints. And the Buddha says it is for one who knows and sees what? Wise attention and unwise attention. So this means we need to know what things are suitable to attend to, what is wise to attend to, in which way, and what is unwise to attend to. So kind of when we do this, the taints will arise or increase. That would be unwise attention. When we attend in this way that the taints increase, that is unwise attention. And wise attention would be that the taints go down, the taint of sensual desire, of existence, and of ignorance. So, but to attend wisely, we need to know the teaching of the Buddha. Why do we need to know the teaching of the Buddha? Because the teaching of the Buddha is about the true nature of things, so about reality. So we can't attend wisely when we don't know the reality. So if we just think by ourselves, that's not enough. The Buddha's knowledge goes beyond thinking. The Buddha realized the reality. The Buddha reached enlightenment, Nibbana, so the highest goal which we want to reach as well. So first of all, we need to understand the Buddha really knew everything. The Buddha understood the reality. So we need to have wise attention or wise consideration, yoniso manasikara in Pali. So to have this, we need to have the mundane right view. So right view, this means that we have the right view to see the reality, the right view to look on reality. So the mundane right view means especially that we believe in the results of cause and effect, about karma. That's what we have. Without this understanding, without this belief, without this faith, without this confidence, we can't attend wisely. That's not possible. So further, the Buddha says, when one attends unwisely, unarisen taints arise and arisen taints increase. When one attends wisely, unarisen taints do not arise and arisen taints are abandoned. So, like we said, if we attend according to the Buddha's teaching, then we attend wisely and the taints decrease and slowly abandon. Bhikkhus, there are taints that should be abandoned by seeing. So like we said before, by seeing with wisdom. There are taints that should be abandoned by restraining. There are taints that should be abandoned by using. So by using in a proper way. There are taints that should be abandoned by enduring. So by patiently enduring. There are taints that should be abandoned by avoiding. There are taints that should be abandoned by removing, and there are taints that should be abandoned by developing. So this is first a lot of information, but about the ways to restrain the taints, to abandon the taints. Exactly this is where the sutta is about. So you don't need to remember now all those words. We will speak now about them in detail, about the different ways to restrain the taints. And the thing is, we need to practice all of them as good as we can. So, like most of you probably know, it's not enough just to sit down and get concentration, get samadhi. It's not like that. Like we need some prerequisites for this, like virtue and other things. And we need to like practice different things. And this is exactly what the Buddha is telling us here right now, because you need to abandon the taints in those different ways. You can't only just sit down and meditate. That's not enough. You need to practice the other ways as well. So, first of all, we speak now about taints to be abandoned by seeing. So the Buddha further says, what taints bhikkhus should be abandoned by seeing with wisdom? Here bhikkhus, an untaught, ordinary person who has no regard for noble ones and is unskilled and undisciplined in their Dhamma, who has no regard for true men and is unskilled and undisciplined in their Dhamma, does not understand what things are fit for attention and what things are unfit for attention. Since that is so, he attends to those things unfit for attention, and he does not attend to those things fit for attention. So the Buddha is saying here now, somebody who does not know noble persons. Noble persons are especially, I make it just easy, like arahants, like enlightened ones, or people on the way to arahantship. These are the noble persons, and the person we talk about now, the untaught ordinary person, that is a person who has no access to the Dhamma, who doesn't get to hear the Buddha's teaching. And same with the true, here's the true man mentioned. It's like the translation, it could also be good man. So what we could see from this is, first, he doesn't know the enlightened ones, he doesn't know the Dhamma, and he also doesn't understand which are the good and the bad persons. This means, as he himself is not a good person, he's just an ordinary man, an unvirtuous ordinary man, he doesn't understand who's good and who's bad. So he thinks himself he's good, and he thinks the good people, so monks, for example, are bad. So he associates with bad persons. And as this is so, he can't understand what is right and wrong, what is wholesome, what is unwholesome. That is why he doesn't understand what is fit for attention and what things are unfit for attention. So the Buddha continues, what are the things unfit for attention that he attends to? They are things such that when he attends to them, the unarisen taint of sensual desire arises in him, and the arisen taint of sensual desire increases. The unarisen taint of existence arises in him, and the arisen taint of existence increases. The unarisen taint of ignorance arises in him, and the arisen taint of ignorance increases. These are the things unfit for attention that he attends to. So let us take one example, like so here the taints increase of sensual desire, for example, increases if you see something beautiful, a beautiful person from whatever, from the opposite sex usually, or the same sex, whatever you interested in, you see something very beautiful and you look at this person and you can't get your eyes away anymore. So in this case, the taint of sensual desire increases, and you can't think clear in this moment anymore. You just have eyes for this one moment. So the taint of sensual desire increases when you attend in this way, when you just look at the beautiful signs of this body. What things that he does not attend? So, and what are the things fit for attention that he does not attend to? They are things such that when he attends to them, the unarisen taint of sensual desire does not arise in him, and the arisen taint of sensual desire is abandoned. The unarisen taint of being, when I say being, in the text they say being, it's usually existence. The translation of being is not good, and I try in my head to change it to existence. So please don't be confused. The second taint could be the taint of existence or being. So don't be confused about that. The unarisen taint of existence does not arise in him, and the arisen taint of existence is abandoned. The unarisen taint of ignorance does not arise in him, and the arisen taint of ignorance is abandoned. These are the things fit for attention that he does not attend to by attending to things unfit for attention, and by not attending to things fit for attention, both unarisen taints arise in him and arisen taints increase. So this means the point is it can be a lot of information if you hear this the first time, even if you hear this more times. It is good to read this slowly again for yourself. It's just a lot of information in a small text. So, but in general, it means like when you attend to the wrong thing, to unwholesome things, like if you see things as permanent, which are actually impermanent, for example, then you attend unwisely, and then your taints increase. So if you see the things contrary to the Buddha's teaching, your taints logically increase. But if you tend in the way like the Buddha is teaching us to see like that this body is subject to old age, illness, and death, and everybody has to leave everything behind, and everybody is from the same nature. All of us have to die one day. So this is the impermanent nature of all existence. If you attend in this way, or if you attend, for example, with loving kindness, things like this would be very wise. If somebody is shouting at you and you don't get angry back or something, you have compassion for this person, you're full of loving kindness for this person, and just thinks this person's angry at the moment, so I'm sorry for him. And maybe you even think he's producing bad karma by doing this. I'm sorry for him. I hope I can help him. This would be, you attend wisely, and if you attend in this way, the taints would decrease and slowly be abandoned. And here the Buddha mentions something next. This is how he attends unwisely. So this is how the person is now reflecting. He has thoughts like this. Was I in the past? Was I not in the past? What was I in the past? How was I in the past? Having been what? What did I become in the past? Shall I be in the future? Shall I not be in the future? What shall I be in the future? How shall I be in the future? Having been what shall I become in the future? Or else he is inwardly perplexed about the present thus. Am I? Am I not? What am I? How am I? Where has this being come from? Where will it go? So these are the questions this person is asking himself. So these questions are pretty much all about a self or a soul. So if you don't know the Buddha's teaching, you can't go beyond the thought that there is a self or soul or something. You will keep searching for something which you can see as yourself. And these are exactly the questions this person is engaged in all the time without finding any answer. Is just asking the same again and again. And he can't come to answer what follows about this. Many wrong views, many wrong thoughts, many problems when we think in this way. So luckily we have our great teacher, the Supreme Buddha, so we don't need to think those thoughts. So when he attends unwisely in this way, one of 6 views arises in him. The view self exists for me arises in him as true and established. Self exists for me means this is like the eternalism view. So he believes on an eternal life. Self exists for me means eternalism arises in him as true and established. Or the view no self exists for me arise in him as true and established. This would be nihilism, so the belief that we are annihilated after death, that the existing being stop to exist after death, so ceases after death. This is the view where no self exists for me arises in him. Or there arises the view I perceive self with self arising as true and established. Don't think too much about those views now. These views are like partly eternalism and nihilism, but I mention them, don't worry too much about them. These are really deep things to think about. Just listen. That's all. Or the view I perceive not self with self arising as true and established, or the view I perceive self with not self arising as true and established. Or else he has some such view as this. It is this self of mine that speaks and feels and experiences here and there the result of good and bad actions. But this self of mine is permanent, everlasting, eternal, not subject to change, and it will endure as long as eternity. So all those views are about self or something pertaining to self. So that's all what we first need to understand from this. So the Buddha further says this speculative view, bhikkhus, is called the thicket of views, the wilderness of views, the contortion of views, the vacillation of views, the fetter of views. Fettered by the fetters of views, the untaught ordinary person is not freed from birth, aging, and death, from sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. He is not freed from suffering, I say. So the Buddha explains, if you have any of those views, if you believe in a self which actually doesn't exist, just in a conventional name, we say we have a self. So you are a person, I am a person, conventional, that's okay to say like this. But if you think about it deeper, in a deeper way, in the nature of truth, then we don't have a self like the Buddha teaches us. And if you cling to a view of self, if you cling to something what is actually impermanent, then you can't be free from suffering. You can't escape from suffering when you don't understand suffering. So, and a self, to believe in a self, what is actually impermanent, the things we see as a self, we could see as a self. So if you see something as self, then you can't be free from suffering. So when we have a view like this, we have to study the Buddha's teaching further. So now we come to the well-taught noble disciple. So the one who came across the Buddha's teaching. The Buddha says here, because a well-taught noble disciple who has regard for noble ones and is skilled and disciplined in their Dhamma, who has regard for true men and is skilled and disciplined in their Dhamma, understands what things are fit for attention and what things are unfit for attention. Since that is so, he does not attend to those things unfit for attention, and he attends to those things fit for attention. So this person is reflecting wisely about the world. He's reflecting wisely about self, or about what to attend to, what increases the taints and what decreases the taints, what is wholesome, what is unwholesome, as he came across the Buddha's teaching. And not only came across the Buddha's teaching, he's also reflecting about the teaching. He's practicing about the teaching. Only to have the teaching is not enough. We also need to apply those teaching to our life, that the teaching are really valuable. This is wise consideration or wise attention. So we have to apply those teachings to our life. It's not something we just learn and forget or find just beautiful and logical. No, we really have to apply those things to our life. What are the things unfit for attention that he does not attend to? So They are the things such that when you attend to them, the unarisen taints of sensual desire, existence, and ignorance increase. So this is a repetition from the first part again, and I skip this to some part. So by not attending to things unfit for attention and by attending to things fit for attention, so he attends to the things which he should attend to. Unarisen taints do not arise in him. So, for example, sensual desire arises not in him because he attends wisely. And arisen taints are abandoned. So slowly the taints decrease and are abandoned if you attend according to the Buddha's teaching. He attends wisely in this way. This is suffering. He attends wisely. This is the origin of suffering. He attends wisely. This is the cessation of suffering. He attends wisely. This is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. When he attends wisely in this way, three fetters are abandoned in him. The fetter of personality view, the fetter of doubt, and the fetter of adherence to rules and observances. These are called the taints that should be abandoned by seeing. So he tends wisely to the Four Noble Truths. I hope you all heard about the Four Noble Truths. This comprises the whole teaching of the Buddha. So the Buddha says we have to think according to the teaching of the Buddha. We have to contemplate about the teaching of the Buddha and apply it to our life. This is wise consideration. This is the very important thing we have to do. And in this way, when you reach one day concentration and you see things as they really are, then these three fetters, the first three fetters, which bind us to existence, are abandoned. This means you reach the first stage of enlightenment. You would be a stream enterer. And then when you reach stream entry, so this means you have seen the Four Noble Truths. You have seen that everything what has a beginning, everything what arises will end with the ending of those causes. So this means you have seen the cause and effect nature of life one time. You have seen it, and as you have seen that, you are free from the first three fetters. You become a stream enterer, and you will reach enlightenment in 7 lives at most. So the fetters, the fetters we can see in other discourse. The point is, I wanted to explain them actually, but the time is short. So I can't explain too many things then. But don't worry if you don't understand everything. You know, the Buddha's teaching are different like a book from today. The Buddha explains in different discourses different things. So if you don't understand something, don't worry, just put it on side and keep reading other discourses as well. Just keep reading. Little by little, your puzzle will become full and you will understand better. That's just the nature. And not only read new discourses, also read the same discourse again, maybe after one time, maybe even just a day later. So these things will become clearer and clearer to you as more as you read them. That's also what we as Bandis have to do. So this is like how you abandon the taints in regard to seeing with wisdom. So this means we should attend to the Buddha's teaching. So then we can reflect wisely in our life. So next, the taints to be abandoned by restraining. What taints, bhikkhus, should be abandoned by restraining. Here Bhikkhu reflecting wisely abides with the eye faculty restrained. While taints, vexation, and fever might arise in one who abides with the eye faculty unrestrained, there are no taints, vexation, or fever in one who abides with the eye faculty restrained. Reflecting wisely abides with the ear faculty restrained, with the nose faculty restrained, with the tongue faculty restrained, with the body faculty restrained, with the mind faculty restrained. While taints, vexation, and fever might arise in one who abides with the faculties unrestrained, there are no taints, vexation, or fever in one who abides with the faculties restrained. These are called the taints that should be abandoned by restraining. So I have to do this short as well. There are many, many suttas about restraining the senses, which are very clearly explain how to do that. I want to say a little bit of it. It's actually a very, very important thing to restrain the senses. This means like if you, we have the six senses, like the one who mentioned internal sense spaces, the eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind. So, and they interact always with the outer world, with the external sense spaces. So I just mentioned the first. The other you can think by yourself. So the eye is internal and it sees a form. So when the eye sees a form and eye consciousness arises, then there's something that is called contact. So if those three things come together, and when there is contact, then we actually see this form, and when we see this form, a feeling arises, and a perception arises, and a thought, a volition arises. So, so if you see something now which you feel which is very beautiful for you, then you have a pleasant sensual feeling, you have a sensual perception if you're not restrained. So what we best should do if we realize there's sensual desire arises when I look at something, the best thing is not to look at it if it is possible. So we should try to do things where sensual desire, for example, and ill will and the taints in general, so bad things, unwholesome things, not arise. We have not always the possibility not to look at something. Sometimes we have to look at something. Then we have to choose another technique, or we have to reflect wisely what is actually there. Like if we see a person, if we attend to the Buddha's teaching, then we know that this person is out of many impurities. Then we can reflect right like this, but our mindfulness is often very weak. So the easiest way is if we are just mindful, if we practice, for example, mindfulness to the body, mindfulness in our activities, that when we are walking, and we are just walking, and we not looking around us. That's the easiest way, like to restrain the senses in this sense, in this way. And just when we really need to look somewhere, that we be aware why we look in this direction, so that we don't take too much from the outer world unnecessary in us. I mean, we can look around, but we should do it wisely. We should see the nature as well and think like all those things are actually impermanent. For example, if we tend in this way, we can look at everything. So, like I said, there are many, many very beautiful discourses about the sense restraint. So, especially in the Samyutta Nikaya, connected discourses. There's a whole chapter about it. You can find good translation on Sutta Central from Bhikkhu Sujato. Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation, in my opinion, are a little bit better, but Bhikkhu Sujato's you can get straight away for free, and there's nothing wrong about it. So it's really recommendable to read them. So next, taints to be abandoned by using. What taints bhikkhus should be abandoned by using? I try to make this one quickly as well. I'm sorry for that, but it's because of the time. Here, bhikkhu, reflecting wisely, uses the robe only for protection from cold, for protection from heat, for protection with insects, with the wind and the sun and other creeping creatures, and only for the purpose of concealing the private parts. So this robe reuse just for the purpose of protection from the weather, for the protection from insects, and for concealing our private parts. So it's what we are doing, reflecting in this way. Every day we reflect on this way, why we use this, that we don't get attached to our robe. Same like you could do in a similar way with your clothes as well. Like if we are, this is sensual desire, there's an attachment to our clothes. If we like always wish to have new clothes, new fashion clothes, and have like so many clothes, we don't need so many clothes. We just can wear one of them, right? To the same time. And we're wasting many times with thinking about what will I wear today. And you have so many choices at home that it takes a lot of time for you. So many taints arise because of those things, because of thinking about what to wear, and you go to the shopping center, buy new clothes. Not only that, even the time for when you go to work, the money you own, like how many time you could have saved instead of buying clothes, you could have learned the Dhamma, practiced the Dhamma instead. Reflecting wisely, the bhikkhu uses alms food neither for amusement nor for intoxication, nor for the sake of physical beauty and attractiveness, but only for the endurance and continuance of this body, for ending discomfort, and for assisting the holy life, considering thus I shall terminate old feelings without arousing new feelings. So new feelings of so terminate old feelings, feelings of hunger, without arousing new feelings. New feelings would be like overeating. And I shall be healthy and blameless, and I shall live in comfort. So we use the food we eat as a bhikkhu for the sustaining of this body, so that we can learn and practice the Buddha's teaching without feeling weak, and we don't overeat, as then you feel tired as well. We can eat delicious things as well. It's not about that. That's okay. It's just we should know the amount of food, and we should reflect about it as well. So if while I'm eating, I feel desire for this food, then I could, for example, reflect the purpose of the food. There are other techniques as well. If you study the discourses little by little, you will find beautiful things to think about. Reflecting wisely, he uses the resting place only for protection from cold, from heat, for protection from insects and other creeping creatures, and only for the purpose of warding off the perils of climate and for enjoying retreat. So similar to the rope, actually, well, we use it just that we can learn and practice the Dhamma. The Arahant Sariputta, the chief disciple of the Buddha, said once about this, as long as my knees doesn't get wet while meditating, then this hut is doing it for me. So this is just the purpose, like, this is all it needs. We can theoretically have luxurious huts if it's available as a bhikkhu. We have to be content with whatever we get. Same with food, with the rope, or with the resting place. If we get a very luxurious resting place, then we can't be angry as well or something. We just reflect wisely the purpose of it without getting attached to it. And if we leave it and the next time we get a hut where our knees just doesn't get wet, then still we should be content in both ways. So this is about, we can't, even with the food, when we get very good food, we have to be content about this as well. We can't like reject the food in our mind or have aversion about good food. That's not the way. We should be content in both ways. Like sometimes we get very good and delicious food, and some people who see this might get jealous, or they think, oh, they live luxuriously. But then you should see some other days where it's difficult for us to sustain ourselves, and we just can eat till 12, and if we don't get proper food, for example, it can be hard for us to practice the Dhamma, but still, this is part of this path as well. And this is the beautiful thing about the teaching, because the Buddha gives us an answer for everything. We just need to reflect on those things. We don't need to think about, like, what if I get good food, or what if I get bad food? What is to do then? We just need to study the teaching of the Buddha, and then we see the answer for everything, how to think wisely about those things. Reflecting wisely, he uses the medicinal requisites only for protection from arisen, afflicting feelings and for the benefit of good health. So same with medicine, we just use them when we need medicine, and without getting attached to medicine. While taints, vexation, and fever might arise in one who does not use the requisites thus, there are no taints, vexation, or fever in one who uses them thus. These are called the taints that should be abandoned by using. So I just summarize it short. So the requisites from bhikkhu, like the robe, so you can see as a layperson your clothes and garments as well. Same with the food, same with your house, and same with your medicine. So we should try not to get attached to this, even if this here is especially for the bhikkhu, but still, this is the ideal. This is the ideal from enlightened one who teaches us. We have to understand this is the reality, and the Buddha teaches us how to get rid of the taints, how to get rid of our attachments. And this is the way for bhikkhu, but still you can see many things about your clothes as well. You could still reflect on those. You don't need to do it there extremely like a bhikkhu, but in some way you could try to go a little bit in this direction, to think maybe I don't need that much clothes. Maybe I don't need to eat 6 or 7 times a day. Maybe I should not overeat. Maybe when my stomach is full, I should stop eating. Then I also won't feel that tired after eating. Because like if you investigate this and you try not to eat more than you really need, you will realize that you won't feel that tired usually after eating. Especially I realized, like, since I just eat till 12, I'm not tired after eating anymore, usually. I mean, sometimes it can happen. For sure, there are some different factors what food you eat, but in general, I feel way more energetic like before when I eat more times. And as I eat mindful, that I try to stop when I feel like my stomach is almost full. Then I feel like I have more energy. I'm not tired during the day. I'm not that lazy. That's, yeah, really helpful. Um, Taints to be abandoned by enduring. What taints bhikkhus should be abandoned by enduring? Here, bhikkhu reflecting wisely. So these are things we should patiently endure. So these are very important things, but like I recommend to you, you should read this sutta again. There are many, many informations, many very useful informations we should learn, we should know. So what taints are to be abandoned by enduring, by patiently enduring? Here bhikkhu reflecting wisely, be as cold and heat, hunger and thirst, contact with flies, with mosquitoes, with the wind, the sun, and other creatures. He endures ill-spoken, unwelcome words, and arisen bodily feeling that are painful, disagreeable, distressing, and menacing to life. While taints, vexation, and fever might arise in one who does not endure such things, there are no taints, vexation, or fever in one who endures them. These are called the taints that should be abandoned by enduring. So um, we can't always decide which weather it is or something, if it is cold or hot, or even with hunger or thirst, sometimes we don't get exactly the conditions we need. So this is just the nature of everything. Everything is changing. The weather as well, like hunger and thirst as well. And there can be mosquitoes or other creeping creatures. And it can be, even if we practice Dhamma, even if we live in an environment which practice Dhamma, that somebody gets angry to us and shouts at us. To us. This is possible. So we have to patiently endure them if we don't want the taints to arise. So if somebody is getting angry, we should not get back angry. Like I mentioned at the beginning, if we have loving kindness to that person, there are many ways, like, for example, thinking how bad the karma is he's producing, but in a compassionate way that you're sorry for him, but that you all don't want to like partake in this. You don't want to produce bad karma just because he gives you introduction to do so. We should not do so. And yeah, same with the other things. So we should endure those things. For sure, we should be wisely. We should avoid as good as we can. If it is way too hot or something, then we can use ACs, go later out during the day or something. So as best as to our ability, but sometimes we can't avoid it. Sometimes we need to go somewhere where it's maybe too hot or too cold for us, or we are still hungry and don't have the possibility to get some food right now. Um, then we should just reflect and endure patiently those things. Um, this is all we can do at this. The situation is like it is. So we should not fight against this situation. We should patiently be aware that it is like this. Taints to be abandoned by avoiding. So this is the next. What taints bhikkhus should be abandoned by avoiding? Here bhikkhu reflecting wisely avoids a wild elephant, a wild horse, a wild bull, a wild dog, a snake, a stump, a bramble patch, a chasm, a cliff, a cesspit, a sewer. Reflecting wisely avoids sitting on unsuitable seats, wandering to unsuitable resorts, and associating with bad friends. Um, so these are called the taints that should be abandoned by avoiding. So um, We should avoid wild animals, even if we practice loving kindness, even if we find in suttas like that they might not harm us, but our loving kindness is probably not strong enough. We should not test this. We should be here wisely and wisely avoid those dangers, unnecessary dangers we should avoid. Same with bad persons, with persons who say again and again think bad things to us or which harm us again and again, even if they promise us not to do so anymore. Sometimes, what a person says and how a person acts is different. So we have to be wisely in this way and see if this person is really not good for me. Then we have to consider if this is one person we should avoid, like it is mentioned here. What taints bhikkhus should be abandoned by removing? Here, bhikkhu reflecting wisely does not tolerate an arisen thought of sensual desire. He abandons it, removes it, does away with it, and annihilates it. He does not tolerate an arisen thought of ill will. He does not tolerate an arisen thought of cruelty. He does not tolerate arisen evil, unwholesome states. He abandons them, removes them, does away with them, and annihilates them. While taints, vexation, and fever might arise in one who does not remove these thoughts, there are no taints, vexation, or fever in one who removes them. These are called the taints that should be abandoned by removing. So the Buddha speaks from thoughts of sensual desire, from thoughts of ill will, and from thoughts of cruelty or harming, could be another translation. So this is like wrong thought or wrong intention in the Noble Eightfold Path. These are exactly the thoughts we should avoid to think. And if we think them, we should straight away try to abandon them as soon as they arrive. We should try to remove them. We should try to put them away, to annihilate them straight away, those thoughts. So yet what we have to do is a thought of sensual desire. We know that our sensual desire just increases if we keep thinking sensual thoughts, or if we have ill will, if we keep thinking thoughts of ill will and anger, it will increase. So we have to abandon them, for example, with loving kindness. When we mindfully realize that we think a bad thought, then we should arouse energy and wisely annihilate those thoughts. Taints to be abandoned by developing. What taints bhikkhus should be abandoned by developing? Here, bhikkhu reflecting wisely develops the mindfulness enlightenment factor, which is supported by seclusion, dispassion, and cessation, and ripens in relinquishment. He develops the investigation of states enlightenment factor, the energy enlightenment factor, the rapture enlightenment factor, the tranquility enlightenment factor, the concentration enlightenment factor, the equanimity enlightenment factor, which is supported by seclusion, dispassion, and cessation, and ripens in relinquishment. While taints, vexation, and fever might arise in one who does not develop these enlightenment factors, there are no taints, vexation, or fever in one who develops them. These are called the taints that should be abandoned by developing. So we have to develop the 7 enlightenment factors. So, like I said, there are many informations in this sutta, and it's okay not to understand everything straight away, but like you maybe see, there are many useful informations about things you can practice straight away. So, which you understand. So focus on the things you understand and don't get stressed or something because of the things you don't understand yet. It just takes time. It's a deep discourse. For beginners, it's a very informative discourse, but still, little by little, you will understand. So I try to explain it a little bit with the enlightenment factors. So the enlightenment factors are the factors which help us to reach enlightenment. So we have to develop them. So the first factor of enlightenment is mindfulness. So if we attend mindfully, so to the teaching of the Buddha, if we practice whatever walking meditation or breathing meditation, or even if we reflect on the Dhamma, the mindfulness enlightenment factor grows in this moment, which it says here it is supported by seclusion. Seclusion means here seclusion from the 5 hindrances. So the 5 hindrances is what we want to abandon, like sensual desire and ill will, for example. So when you attend mindfully, for example, when you listen to my talk right now, not only to my talk, let's say to Dhamma talk, if you attend wisely and you're mindfully, then there's no sensual desire present in you. The hindrances in the moment where you attentively listen, there are no 5 hindrances present in you. This means the mindfulness enlightenment factor grows to this time and slowly comes to fulfillment, while the taints decrease to the same time. So the taints of sensual desire, of existence, and of ignorance, they slowly go down, they decrease when you attend mindfully to the teachings of the Buddha. So, as the mindfulness enlightenment factor is supported by seclusion, like mentioned, seclusion means secluded from the 5 hindrances. So 5 hindrances are the things which disturb us from developing good qualities. Dispassion and cessation means here dispassion from craving and lust, from attachment, same with cessation, and ripens in relinquishment. So this means all those things you can also see as synonyms for Nibbana, like dispassion, cessation, ripens in relinquishment. It means it leads us to eternal happiness. It leads us to Nibbana. It leads us to understanding the reality of life. So if we develop the first enlightenment effect of mindfulness, so when you are mindful in something, for example, meditation, so then what we are actually doing, the next enlightenment factor, it's translated as investigation of states enlightenment factor. It means like actually the word is Dhamma, but it's difficult to translate. So theoretically, it means we investigate the true nature of things. So we investigate according to the Buddha's teaching. So when we are mindful, investigate. When we are mindful, investigate to the Buddha's teaching, then the second enlightenment factors also develops. So it's a cause and effect. First, you are mindful. Second, then as you investigate the teachings of the Buddha, the second enlightenment factor develops. So you contemplate according to the Buddha's teaching, and when you contemplate about the Buddha's teaching, the next enlightenment factor develops. It's the energy enlightenment factor. The energy enlightenment factor, so the effort like to cultivate wholesome states and to abandon unwholesome states. As you reflect according to the teaching, your energy is aroused, the energy enlightenment factor, as you contemplate about wholesome things. And when you contemplate about wholesome things, so when your energy is aroused, then next follows rapture, spiritual rapture follows, because like your mind is free from worries. You just think about good things, about things which help you to understand life. Your energy is aroused. So a spiritual rapture, which is higher than the sensual pleasure or sensual joy, whichever you can feel. This is like a lightness which you feel, the rapture enlightenment factor. And when this rapture enlightenment factor is aroused, next the tranquility enlightenment factor is aroused, because you feel a spiritual happiness. Your body becomes very calm and light, and your mind as well. So this is the tranquility enlightenment factor, which comes next. This is cause and effect, like everything. Like the true nature of things, it's cause and effect. So if you reach concentration or something in meditation, it is due to cause and effect. It is not randomly. It is because you practice in the way you should have practiced in this moment. So if the tranquility enlightenment factor is aroused, so your body and mind are very calm, then next the concentration enlightenment factor is aroused. So this is the natural way how concentration follows. If you tend mindfully and slowly, the other enlightenment factors are developed as well. So then your mind becomes concentrated, and then you see the things as they really are. And when this is the case, then the last enlightenment factor, the enlightenment factor of equanimity, is aroused. So you just see in a detached way, you analyze the true nature of existence. So equanimous, with equanimity, you contemplate the true nature of reality. And again, which is supported by seclusion. So all these enlightenment factors are supported by seclusion. So the five hindrances, secluded from the five hindrances, and craving and lust and attachment slowly ceases, and it ripens in relinquishment. So it leads to happiness. It leads slowly to nibbana by practicing that. So these are called the taints that should be abandoned by developing. So bhikkhus. So now comes the conclusion of this sutta. When for bhikkhu the taints that should be abandoned by seeing have been abandoned by seeing, when the taints that should be abandoned by restraining have been abandoned by restraining, when the taints that should be abandoned by using have been abandoned by using, when the taints that should be abandoned by enduring have been abandoned by enduring, when the taints that should be abandoned by avoiding have been abandoned by avoiding, when the taints that should be abandoned by removing have been abandoned by removing, when the taints that should be abandoned by developing have been abandoned by developing, then he is called a bhikkhu who dwells restrained with the restraint of all the taints. He has severed craving. So he has cut off craving, flung off the fetters, and with the complete penetration of conceit, he has made an end of suffering. So this means if he restrains the taints in all those ways, all the taints will be abandoned. He will understand the true nature of this life, the non-self nature of this life. This means the conceit. This is the conceit I am, which is mentioned here. This is like the deepest belief that there has to be something like a self. And this is just abandoned finally with the attainment of enlightenment, with arahantship. And when you contemplate like this, when the enlightenment factor is aroused and you see the true nature of existence of these five aggregates, then the conceit is abandoned, craving is severed, and you reach enlightenment, you reach nibbana, as you lost all your attachment to everything. You lost your attachment to your body, to your mind, to everything as you understand. Everything is impermanent. What is impermanent is suffering. And what is impermanent and suffering, I can't consider it as myself because I don't have this under control. I can't exercise any control over this body or mind. This is the non-self nature. We have to slowly understand, but not only understand with thinking. We have to understand, we have to realize it by practicing the Buddha's teaching step by step, gradually. And this is how we have to abandon like all the taints. May all of us be so fortunate to understand those beautiful sutta, to practice accordingly, and by this merit and power are so fortunate to realize the Four Noble Truths in this Gautama Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
I have one question, Bante.
Yes, sure.
Thank you. Thank you for that beautiful explanation. I was thinking of, gotta go back to my notes here. So for the to getting rid of the taints, we didn't really talk about meditation. So, for instance, for the sensual desire, if you meditate on the impurities of the body, then that reduces that taint of sensual desire. That's one. And then for the second one, existence, I guess if you meditate on impermanence, that reduces as well. But what about existence? Sorry, just a minute. There is just ignorance.
Ignorance.
Yeah. What do you do about
ignorance? About impermanence? You mean if you contemplate about impermanence, ignorance, like?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm thinking for sensual desire, you could meditate on the impurities of the body, and then for existence, you could contemplate on or meditate on impermanence. But
actually, theoretically, it's more like if you would contemplate about impermanence, ignorance is actually the thing.
Oh, okay.
Ignorance is the thing when you contemplate theoretically about the true nature, about impermanence, about suffering, and about non-self. So theoretically ignorance would go down, but actually you can't completely separate it. Like, I mean, if your central desire goes down,
Hmm.
if you contemplate, I mean, you contemplate about truth anyway,
Hmm.
about the true nature of things. Even the impurity of this body is the true nature. So
Right.
this means when you contemplate about this, like the taint of existence, is the taints arranging of karma to be a fruit. So this means when you don't have lust, when you contemplate about getting rid of sensual desire, automatically also your taint of existence goes down. So this means in the moment where you contemplate about something according to the Buddha's teaching,
Hmm.
theoretically you can say all taints go down because in this moment you practice the way to the banning of the taints. Um, I hope this answers your question.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you, Bhante.